All right, let's dive into the incredible story of the Delhi Sultanate. This wasn't just any old empire. It was a powerhouse that completely reshaped the history of India for more than 3 centuries. I want you to just picture this for a second. For 320 years, from a single city, Delhi, a series of powerful Islamic dynasties controlled a massive part of the Indian subcontinent. That's an epic run lasting right up until the legendary Mughals showed up. So you gotta ask, how on earth did they pull that off? How does one city manage to rule a subcontinent for that long? What were their secrets to success, and what eventually led to their downfall? Well, we're about to find out. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to break this whole story down into 5 parts. First up, we'll look at how Delhi became the center of everything. Then, we'll get into the absolutely fascinating Slave Dynasty. After that, we'll see how they grew into a massive empire, dig into how they actually ran the place, and finally, watch how it all unraveled. Right, let's jump in. To really get a handle on the Sultanate, we've got to turn back the clock a bit and see what Delhi was like before it became this huge imperial capital. So back in the medieval period, Delhi was already a big deal under Rajput rulers like the Tomaras and Chauhans. It was a buzzing commercial hub. In fact, coins minted there, called Delhi Wal, were used all over the place. But everything changed in the late 12th century when Turkish forces, led by Muhammad Ghori, stormed the city. This was a major, major turning point. And this wasn't just another conquest, you know? This invasion lit the fuse for the Delhi Sultanate, kicking things off with its very first, and maybe its most unique, ruling family. The Sultanate's long history unfolds across 5 different dynasties. Now, the first 3, the Mamluks, the Khaljis, and the Tughlaqs, were all of Turkish origin, and they were the ones who really built this empire from scratch. The Mamluks, wow, they're just so interesting because they're a total paradox. The name itself means owned, which is why they're called the Slave Dynasty. Its founder, Qutb-ud-din Aibak, was literally a Turkish slave. Just stop and think about that. A whole system where someone who is technically property can climb the ladder all the way to become the king. It just goes to show you that in their world, loyalty and skill on the battlefield meant way more than being born into the right family. And from this incredibly unique dynasty came one of the most remarkable rulers you'll ever hear about, Razia Sultan. Her own father picked her to be his successor, and even the historians of the time, like Minhaji Siraj, had to admit she was brilliant. But here's the tragic part. Even though everyone knew she was more qualified than any of her brothers, the nobles at court just couldn't stomach the idea of a woman being in charge. The social norms were just too strong. And so, after only 4 years, they kicked her off the throne. Razia's short rule really shows you the kind of internal power struggles going on back then, but once they got some of that sorted out, the Sultanate shifted gears. The next dynasties, the Khaljis and the Tughlaqs, weren't just thinking about holding on to what they had, they were all about expansion. And their expansion wasn't some chaotic land grab, it was super strategic. First, they secured their own neighborhood, consolidating all the lands around their main towns. Next, they launched campaigns deep into southern India, looking for treasure and resources. And finally, under the Tughlaqs, they just went for it, conquering a huge part of the subcontinent. Okay, so conquering all that land is one thing, but how in the world did they actually manage to control such a massive and diverse empire? Well, that took some seriously sophisticated systems. The early sultans, once again, leaned on their unique system of bandagan. These were special military slaves, handpicked and trained for the most important jobs in government and the army. Why? Because these men owed everything to the sultan, and their loyalty was considered way more reliable than that of the old aristocrats, who were always plotting. And this is how they paid for the whole operation. There were 3 main taxes, one on your cattle, one on your house, and then the big one, the karaj. This was a staggering 50% tax on a peasant's produce. I mean, half of everything they grew. That massive flow of wealth funded the armies for sure, but it put an incredible strain on the farmers who were the backbone of the entire empire. Now, to deal with threats like the Mongol invasions, rulers like Alauddin Khalji came up with some truly brilliant economic policies for the time. He started paying his soldiers in cash instead of with land. And to make sure that cash was actually worth something, he put strict price controls on the markets. It was this amazing top-down effort to manage the economy and stop inflation, stuff that modern governments still struggle with today. But, as we all know, no empire lasts forever.
The Sultanate's massive size actually became a weakness, making it hard to govern, and a deadly mix of outside threats and internal problems started to bring it all down.
By the end of the 14th century, the empire was stretched thin and full of rebellions. The final knockout punch to the powerful Tughlaq dynasty came in 1398 with Timur's brutal invasion, which left Delhi in ruins. After that, you just had a series of weaker dynasties, the Sayyids and the Lodis, ruling a much smaller, broken empire that never got back to its glory days.
And this is it. This is the final moment. The end of the line came in 1526 at the First Battle of Panipat. Babur, the founder of the Mughal Empire, defeated the last sultan, Ibrahim Lodi, and with that one battle, the 320-year reign of the Delhi Sultanate was officially over.
So when you look back at this whole incredible story, an empire founded by a slave, expanded to cover a subcontinent, and then brought to its knees, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? When slaves can become kings and a queen can be overthrown just for being a woman, what does that really tell us about the strange, complicated, and contradictory nature of power itself?